Welcome to the 6th episode of the Pantheon Panel. We've got quite a bit to talk to you about today. We're going to ask little things as, is Guan Yu still a viable god? Can the mystical mark ×5 build be beaten? Is Fatalis a good item or not? And what does lead designer HiRezTravis have to say about SMITE? With me today I have my new permanent co-host, Fixie, from Shoutcast This, and you all have seen him on the BL Gaming's Beyond the Rift stream as well. And with us as a guest host today is Lore from GameBreaker TV and TankSpot.com. So most people here know Fixie quite a bit, but Lore, why don't you, for those who do not know you, why don't you introduce yourself?
So I do a lot of World of Warcraft video content. I've been working with TankSpot for the past several years now. I've also been playing MOBAs since the Heroes of New Earth beta was actually when I first really started getting into them. I played a little bit of Dota before that, but Heroes of New Earth beta was when I first really started getting into it. Played Han for a long time, switched over, played League of Legends for a long time, and then when SMITE came out, or at least when I got an invite to SMITE, kind of was like a mix between, you know, kind of a little bit of that MMO, like third-person sort of feel to it, but also with the really heavy, fast-paced action focus of a MOBA, so I was like, this actually sounds like exactly what I would like to be playing, so I played it.
All right. And Fixie, give us a 10-second introduction of yourself.
I'm Fixie, Google me.
Okay. Very good. And I am J.K. Kennedy, and you can find me at my site. It's posted all over the stream. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into the first topic of today, which is Guan Yu. It's been over a week now since the last patch where they nerfed Guan Yu, and some people say they nerfed him into the ground. So do any of you play Guan Yu anymore? You are muted, Lord.
I played him a couple of times since the patch.
That delay, pretty epic.
Oh, or you delayed.
Oh, wow.
Try again, Josh, because you were fine at the intro.
Dominoes?
There you, hey,
yeah, you're fine now.
back, nice.
All right. I played him a little bit since the patch. I was playing him a lot before the patch because it was kind of in that weird spot where whichever team didn't have a Guan Yu would lose, or if it was Guan Yu versus Guan Yu, it was whichever team had the better Guan Yu won. So in the interest of not hating every single game, I was playing him a lot. But since the patch, yeah, I've played him a couple times. He still feels... I still think there's potential in him. He's definitely a lot less potent than he used to be. But he still feels to me like he can fill that sort of tanky support role fairly well. You just have to build him a lot differently than you were before. You can't really build him as a pure DPS assassin like you were before, which I don't think was what he was supposed to begin with. But that's generally been my sort of impression of him since the nerf.
Fixie?
Oh, I think Josh is basically spot on. Since the nerf, I think he's a very undervalued initiator right now. Being able to go in there with the dash and hit your ulti without being able to, without being CC'd, huge. Perma-stuns, it's good. You're sitting there, you go and you stun, you don't die. And if you need to dash out, you can dash out when you're done. It's not that big of a cooldown. And you can follow up with your drum roll, too, so he's got some decent damage abilities, too. Like Josh said, can't be built as, like, just a nuker. It doesn't work anymore. I liked him before. He was fun to play. He was very spammy. I like him now. He's you got to play him the way he's been made to be played, so you don't really have much more of an option. But yeah, he's still viable. I think we'll see a lot of him in competitive play. If not, people are bad.
What about other than reinforced boots as his obvious first choice of item? How would you say someone who wants to try Guan Yu should build him? Maybe from that point.
I think it really depends on who you're playing against. Like I would stack health on him. I like stacking health because if you're playing against a balanced team, you don't have to worry about stacking MR or physical resistant. You can just stack health on him, and you'll know you can go in there, you can initiate and survive for the majority, if not all, the team fight. So stack health, Gaia, reinforced boots, of course. Maybe a beat stick too. Again, it really depends on who you're playing against. I'm just not going to give you a random build because people will do it and be like, "Oh, Pixie, this build sucks." I'm like, and then you're an idiot. You're doing it wrong. So just stack health. Again, very viable that way. Initiate, stun people.
Yeah, I think Warlock Sash still works decently on him, just because you do get a whole ton of health, like you were saying, out of
Them
Warlock
stacks.
Sash still. Yeah, and it does increase your magical power still too, which will help with his heal. Gem of Isolation I still think is a really good item on him also, just because you use your drum roll, your butta, whatever that thing is called, you use that and just slow. You can almost like spin around with that and just slow absolutely everybody that's nearby. But yeah, definitely build tanky magical power sort of setup. A little bit of MP in there with more tanky items. For
Yeah,
sure.
good call on that, man. I completely agree. It's awesome. Josh knows what's up.
So it's obvious that Guan Yu is not a middle lane solo character. So who, for people out there looking to play Guan Yu, because he is a unique character, kind of fun to play, very musical aspirations it seems. Who should he lane with? Who's a good lane combo for Guan Yu?
I like him. I actually like him with other melees, like with a. Generally, you see a Kali in jungle, but if you have a Kali who's laning, he does pretty well with her too. Just because I feel like he's really, really good at making trades, because you can jump in there. He's really tanky just on his own, especially if you're like near a tower. If you're pushed back to your tower, I feel like a right lane, assuming that their left lane is being aggressive, a right lane setup with another melee or just somebody that can make decent trades is good, because you can jump in there, do a little bit of damage, jump back out, and then heal back up afterwards. That logistically seems like, obviously we haven't seen a whole ton in the way of like super high competitive, like, oh, what are the best players in the world doing just yet, because it's kind of all over the place right now who exactly the best players are, but that just seems logistically logically, excuse me, it seems like something that would work out pretty well.
I guess with his slow, another melee kind of makes sense in there. Just to be up there, he's slow him and they can both whack on him and get out. Someone like Bastet is probably good to jump in, and then she can jump right back out after 4 seconds when it slows off and stuff, and keep herself safe. Definitely.
I think you're both right. Like on one hand, bruiser lanes are a lot of fun. Like Ymir Wukong, so much fun, so much early damage or survivability. You've got CCs, you've got slows, you've got fears, you've got everything. So like you've got Guan Yu with a Wukong or with a Ymir, that's fun. Or anybody with a lot of mobility, like you said, Bast, that's a great idea. She can move around, and so can Guan Yu. You guys can just zoom and kill people. It's pretty epic. You can also do an Odin. Anybody that can just jump in, jump out, jump in, just explode people. He's very, like, he can adapt to anything, so I can't imagine a bad lane with him, actually.
Yeah, he seems to kind of work with everybody. He's just one of those like ultra supporty tanky champions that, I mean, you could put Anubis with him if you really wanted to. You could put whoever with him and it would probably work. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, just mobility in general I think is a great combo with him, because he's mobile too. It's fun. Kill people, win games.
Does he have much place right now, you think, in the competitive teams builds? Or do you think there's better choices than Guan Yu?
That's tough to say. I still feel like, I guess I feel like it depends on your overall composition. I could see him fitting into a game that doesn't have much else in the way of like a Healy support very well. Like if you don't have a Hell or a Ra for that matter, then he definitely starts to shine quite a bit. Even with a Ra, I think he would still shine quite a lot. And honestly, I've seen some games played where you have all three of them. You have Hell, Ra, and Guan Yu, and just nobody ever dies at all because there's just constant healing everywhere. Yeah, for sure. I think he fits in pretty well. The fact that his damage is kind of low means he's taking the place of probably like a Hades or an Ymir or something like that, where you still want other champions or other damage focused champions. But I don't know. It seems like he still works. I don't know.
I think he would complement like a Ymir or complement like a Hades, because, if somebody has beads, they have to blow it for one ult, but look, here comes Guan Yu with his ult, now you're stunned. So I think Guan Yu is a very complementary champion with other bruisers and or tanks. I wouldn't pick him as the tank, the initiator on a team, but rather to complement one that's already been picked, if that makes any sense to you guys.
Yeah.
We'll pretend it does. Let's do that.
Well, so, yeah, I guess Guan Yu in basics is a pretty well-rounded now, but people need to find his place in. maybe there'll be some elite player who really loves playing him. We'll see him a lot more getting played, and then anybody who watches that elite player will be like, I want to play Guan Yu too, so I can be like you. So that's how the world works. All right, last week we showed you all a video of a build called the Mystical Mark ×5 build. We're essentially in with all characters who can heal themselves and heal others, and built with, right off the bat, Mystical Mark immediately. At level 6, you're able to solo the Fire Giant. Well, after we did that, a couple days, we ran into something a little bit unique. And Fixing, I'll let you explain this and what happened when a team decided to build the Mystical Mark ×5 build against us, and explain to people that it is actually counterable.
Oh, it's counterable. We push their shit in. Excuse my language. All right, so Mystical Mark ×5, kind of OP. Getting Fire Giant level 6, 7 minutes in the game, that's a big deal. Everybody go to one lane, push, and kill everything. Now, there's a couple things you need to realize. When somebody builds Mystical Mark ×5, they're going to go do Fire Giant at 7 minutes when they hit level 6, or, you know, one of the, like, right around there. So when everyone's gone, when everyone's missing, what do? We go to Fire Giant, and we kill them, and we take Fire Giant. We stack MR. We stack Gem of Isolation. We slow them down. We kill their Fire Giants, and we don't let them do anything because all they're doing is running one strat. And if you blow their first Fire Giant, they can't win the game because you've already stacked MR, and they're so far behind because they all just died. Very, very simple strategy to counter. Play smart, kill Fire Giant, stack MR, get, you know, all the different auras. Tell your team what you're buying so they can buy differently. It's not OP, kids. It's easy. You can do this. I believe in you.
Well, I guess the counter to this strat and almost any strat is honestly for people to be smart and hit tab at the beginning of the game and look at what your enemy purchases. So many people don't do that. Did the enemy buy God of Hands? Did they all go tier 2 on Mystical Mark? If so, everyone get Reinforced Boots tier 2 and then complete Gaia Stone afterwards and block every damage they can deal with it. So I guess it's more, this is a public service announcement to everyone out there at this point, that this Mark build that is still in the game and not patched yet can be beaten. Just hit tab and look at the enemy. And yes.
Josh, did you run into any Mystical Mark builds while you were playing, bro?
I didn't run into any, no, because I haven't done a whole lot of 5v5 queues.
Right,
so
right.
I wasn't running into organized teams. But yeah, this seems like you see this all the time in MOBAs. People come up with some gimmicky build where they're like, oh man, I'm going to take Baron at level 2 with this crazy setup that I've got. We're going to kill Baron at level 2. And then the other team goes, why are they at Baron? We'll just walk in their direction and they'll all fall over. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, because when you're going with a build like this, if you're going right to Fire Giant, like you said, you can go in there and just kill them because they're not going to stomp Fire Giant. They're going to just barely kill Fire Giant and be almost dead themselves, and they're going to have to back and heal up before they can actually push. So you can go in there and have one Emir wall himself in and ult, and congratulations, you died. They're dead now.
What do we call this? We call this common sense, people. Josh, you are a man after my own heart, dude. We are kindred spirits. Auto intellect. How long have you been playing? Like, how many games do you think you have played? Under 50, probably?
Of SMITE? Yeah, still probably under 50.
Guys,
close, but
under 50 games and he's using logic. Dude, you are a minority in this game right now. I'm so proud of you, bro. You need to blog about this or something.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, okay, so bringing this back, HiRezTravis actually talked about this a bit last night on the Beyond the Rift stream that he was on, and one thing they did say they were talking about in-house at Hi-Rez Studios was about not making the not allowing the Fire Giant to spawn till, say, the 10-minute mark, or changing the Fire Giant in some way so that they can't get that immediate buff, because the whole build actually relies upon that Fire Giant buff you get real quick, and then you get that huge increase in damage and survivability to be able to push that lane at level 6. So, I mean, do you see moving the Fire Giant spawn time to a later point a good idea for the game? Or do you think it should be there for people to try to take?
I think it's totally possible. I think it just depends on how abusive people get with stuff like this, how many creative different ways they can find to, because they ended up doing something similar in League of Legends, and I believe they ended up doing it with Han eventually as well, where they made it where, actually I don't remember, I haven't actually played Han in a while, but anyway, they made it where Baron doesn't spawn for a while, where Roche doesn't spawn for a while, so that, just because people kept coming up with creative different ways to do it, and it's such a weird gimmicky thing that it was just really, really frustrating. Not for like competitive players, because it was completely like whatever. Competitive players know what to do to deal with it automatically anyway. But it's more of a quality of life thing for the random dude who's just queuing up to have some fun with his friends by himself in lower tier play. It became a problem there. Yeah. So if it's something that top end players aren't going to do anyway, because it's like this huge risk that the other team is going to immediately, hey, nobody's in any of our lanes. They're probably at Fire Giant. If it's something that at top tiers of play, nobody's going to be able to pull off anyway. And in lower tiers of play, if somebody happens to put it together, it just kind of makes the whole game kind of crappy. Then yeah, it absolutely makes sense for them to make a move like that, where it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about adjusting, like, it's not going to cause any damage to the real competitive play. We're just going to make this change so the lower tiers of play can have a little bit more fun actually playing the game. Makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, we have to take into consideration and realization that the top 10% of the game of the players is obviously not the majority of where the income is actually coming from, probably, for the game. So if the competitive players are the top, or a small minority, obviously they want to still make it so it's fun for the majority of players out there, and that normal queue is the majority of players. That can't be denied. And if they are hating it and leaving because of something stupid like this, then yeah, move the fire giant to 10 minutes. Make that little bit to make it a bit more interesting. So
I don't think it matters either way. Like, I'm not one of those players who are like, oh my god, you have to do this or this is gonna happen. I'm more of a, oh, you did this, so instead I'll do this now kind of player. Like I welcome any and all change that Hi-Rez brings, just because, like, I like to be able to change things up. Let's be adaptable. Let's be different. Let's be innovative. Let's not worry about what everyone else is doing. Let's do this instead. Oh, they're gonna go do this? How about we go do that? Like, it just, like, I'd rather be, like, I don't know, I guess reactive than proactive. The opposite of everything else and everybody else in the entire world.
Well, it's just kind of a question of, is this something that will ever work in competitive play regardless? Like, no. Is it something that people, yeah, it won't. Like you were just saying, all you got to do is go and wipe them. It's no problem.
Yeah, I'm atrocious, and we figured that out like 12 seconds into the game, you know? It's like, let's use brain cells. We won't see it at high-level play.
Yeah, so...
We beat a high-level team with it, you know? It's...
Yeah, it seems fine to me to go ahead and push back the spawn timer if that's something, if this is something that catches on and a lot of people start doing and other people just aren't catching on and how to deal with it as well. Seems like a change that would make sense. But again, yeah, it probably doesn't, at a competitive angle, it doesn't matter either way.
I'm your new #1 fan, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of changes, in the last patch they added in an item called Fatalis. The item, which in the patch notes was originally going to be... I forget what it was it was like crit chance or something like that. But it's actually a cooldown reduction item. 20% cooldown reduction, but gives you 35% attack speed and 10% movement speed on top of everything. Has this item found a place in the game?
This is one of those weird items that it really, really, really depends on the kit of the champion that you're putting it on. And you probably wouldn't see it until late in the game. Like, I could see, depending on what else they're building, I could see I could see Akali picking this up as like their 5th or 6th item, like way late in the game, just because, I mean, you've already got a. But the problem, it's such a weird item because the problem is what are they not building in place of it, right? Is the 35% attack speed and cooldown reduction. The reason I say Akali is because she has a really strong steroid that increases her damage. And then she's focused mostly on using her 2 ability. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And then also auto attacks just after that. Like in between using 2, you do a whole bunch of auto attacking. So having the extra attack speed and the cooldown reduction to be able to use those other items at the same time, or use those other abilities more frequently, it makes sense on paper, but it's not something you would want to build early enough in the game for it to actually matter. So when I say like 5th or 6th item, I mean the item that you probably don't build because the game is probably over with at that point. So I don't know. I haven't spent the amount of time in the game that you guys have, I'm sure. Logistically, it seems like an item that I could see someone like that building with a kit like that. But what are they not building instead? That's kind of what it comes down. Like at that late point in the game, you usually want to start building survivability anyway. So
let me throw you a curveball here. And I hate to disagree with you because the logic is strong with you. It really is. But now, what would cooldown reduction, attack speed, and movement speed do 12 minutes into the game? 12 minutes into the game.
12 minutes
on Bastet, Kali, or Wukong?
Not much, because they haven't built much in the way of damage.
When you're in a laning phase, attack speed, cooldown reduction, and movement speed during a laning phase, that can be game breaking. I think this is a very underutilized item. It should be bought earlier rather than later. It's not viable later, just like what you said, but if this is the 2nd or 3rd item you buy, having that extra attack speed, that cooldown reduction, which is a buff that we all want anyways, and that movement speed, that is giant in laning phase. Put that on the Wukong, who can slow and chase down, or in a Kali, who gets in there, spams and auto attacks for the kill. I think that's huge during the laning phase. I think we need to see a lot more of it during the early game. I think it's very underutilized at this point. It's a great item, and people need to start using it more.
Well, yeah, I guess at that point, it's kind of a math thing. Like, is the attack speed worth the extra damage you could get from another item? And I honestly don't know the math, so it's entirely possible that you're completely and totally correct in that the attack speed ends up being more damage early on. Yeah, that would be interesting math to look at. I definitely feel, I see where you're coming from though, with especially the movement speed and cooldown reduction. That is something that is very recognizable early on in the game.
I'm gonna go do. I'm interested now too. After this is over, I'm gonna go test that.
Well, I found it actually quite useful on. I still don't know very many other people who do it. Is my AD Sobek build. And the problem with the original problem with the AD Sobek was it took so long to build the attack speed because you had to get 2 attack speed items in order to get it up there. And for those who think I'm crazy, AD Sobek, because all his other abilities completely control the field, and then he can whack on you, and he does pretty nice damage and defense to begin with, and his melee attack gives him defense buff as well for his passive. But the Fatalis early game gives him a little bit extra movement speed, at plus 10% movement speed. All his CC abilities get 20% cooldown reduction on top of it, and you've eliminated his melee swing speed problem right off the bat with that very cheap item. So it's worked really well of getting the reinforced boots tier 2, get Fatalis to tier 3, then complete reinforced boots, and then move on with the damage on the AD items. Now, there's also the argument that AP Sobek is very strong as well anyways, so why go AD Sobek? But my personal experience, I've liked it. I usually follow up, as soon as I get those 2 items, I would usually go with the Frostbound Hammer right away. So I get the slow and the power on top of it. And then usually Executioner's Axe or something after that, depending on, or a defense item, depending on what I'm running up against, of course.
You and your crazy builds too. I love it. I love it.
Well, here's another weird thought I just had, because it was originally, I believe you're right, it was originally crit chance. So everybody's kind of looking at this and saying, oh yeah, this is totally an attack, or excuse me, a physical damage item. There's nothing about, like, obviously auto attacks are generally more useful on physical damage champions. I'm wondering if there's a way to make this, like, if there's a champion that their auto attacks, like a Zeus, for example, where you get the charges, the lightning charges from your auto attacks.
Yeah,
I almost wonder if there's a home for it there also, or potentially future champions that they come out with that have more of an auto attack focus setup. I was kind of thinking Polynomicon at first, just because I've been trying to find ways to make Polynomicon awesome. But
it's awesome in itself. You don't have to try, bro.
It is pretty awesome. Dude, I love it on Hell. Polynomicon on Hell is ridiculous.
Well, yeah,
oh my god.
Because Hell's old.
For stand swap proxy.
It's so good. It's so much fun. I love that item.
You can play Troll AP Hades as well, and it works good on him. because
Yeah.
he just pops in and shoots
Only
it.
you, Kennedy.
And the 5v5s
Yeah,
where we don't have anybody to play against.
Yep.
But yeah,
so.
I could see this being very, very strong on future champions, depending on what they do as well. The Fatalis, that is. Polynomicon is just fun.
All we have right now is guesses. Like, we have another 15 champs we're going to see in the next X amount of months and or years. So, yeah, whatever. We'll see.
Someone in chat actually said about putting it on Guan Yu.
Oh, I guess make him spammier.
With Polynomicon on Guan Yu, I guess.
Oh, I see what he did there.
The only weird thing about combining Polynomicon with an attack speed item is that Polynomicon can only proc every 2 seconds anyway. So the question is kind of, are you actually getting any extra damage out of it, or are you just getting in an extra auto attack swing before the next Polynomicon proc?
Yeah.
Well, if it had like if you had Frostbound Hammer, I don't know. Like again, here we go with the whole 8 gajillion different ideas with these builds thing. Grammar just turned hard. I'm sorry.
And now we're looking at Guan Yu back as a damage dealer all of a sudden again too.
Don't do it. The poor forums, they can't handle it again, bro.
All right, let's move on into the interview that went on yesterday on the Beyond the Rift stream with HiRezTravis, and some question and answers that he looked at, and let's kind of break them down and discuss them a bit because they were mostly just answered yesterday, but not too discussed about. So, wrong one. All right, here we go. So the first one of the main questions asked was, any fun tweaks we can look forward to in the next patch? And in case anybody here is watching is wondering, no patch this week. The patch is next week is what they announced. So he said, looking at a couple characters who need a little bit of help. The good news is the majority of the characters are falling in the limits we want them to be in win percentage. For example, if the enemy team selects Sobek and the other team does not, the team winning with Sobek falls within 45 to 55%. They are all falling within this range. So it looks like this 45 to 55% range number has, as HiRezTravis I think explained it, was where they want all champions to fall in if, say, that champion's chosen and the other enemy team does not have it. And 45 to 55% of the time, that team with that champion wins. And they don't want it to they don't want it really going over that. So the main thing actually I got out of this was this 40. Do you all think that's fair to say this champion wins 45% of the time it's picked and the other team doesn't pick it over a champion that's 55%? Or do you think it should be tighter?
At that point, at like the 45% point is when they might want to start looking at it and saying, maybe we'll do like a little tiny change with them. Nothing major at all. Nothing like, oh, we're going to buff up their damage a whole bunch or something. But that's when you just look at them a little bit from a balance perspective and you go, is there something we can do to bring that up 2%? You know, nothing crazy, but just a little bit of a nudge. And on the opposite end as well, if somebody's winning 55% of the time, those tiny little balance tweaks is what comes in at that point. I still think that's totally reasonable, though. 45 to 55% in a game like SMITE, where there's so much skill involved in having to actually aim your stuff anyway. It's actually kind of funny. I was reading this, and he said looking at a couple characters who need a little bit of help, and I was like, I wonder who those are. Like, who does Hi-Rez consider to be the champions that need the help? Because you'll see people say, well, Hades is totally broken and underpowered because you just get purification beads. But then you turn around and look at somebody else who says, man, Hades is totally overpowered because he traps me inside Emir's ultimate and then I die because they didn't get purification beads. So things are just so all over the place in terms of what the general populace perceives to be overpowered and underpowered at the moment. I'm actually really curious what champions Hi-Rez considers to be underpowered or overpowered.
Agni's the only person they brought up last night, and he's fine.
Agni's fine. They said Agni needs a small tweak, but not on not on his. They said not on his stun though. People are complaining about the stun. Yeah. They said keep the stun because that's fun.
His 3 might need to be scaled back a little bit. You can kill creeps and then level 1 kill creeps. Well, if an Agni dashes towards me mid when she's level 1, she's gonna effing die. Figure it out.
But and I think actually Travis did mention last night also that Hades is one of the characters they are looking at. Tweaking a little bit. I don't know if it's in the next patch or in the future or not. I do have a question for you, Laura, on this though. Being that I was watching your stream the one day, and your stream is the creator of Suddenly Sobek, do you believe that Sobek falls in between 45 to 55% chance range, as Travis says?
Absolutely. No, Sobek seems like a really, really balanced champion to me. The Suddenly Sobek was just because there was that one Sobek that every time I turned around, he was right. Like, it's happened with other champions too. It just sounds fun to say. Like, Suddenly Sobek is just fun to pronounce. So yeah, it was just that one stream. I just kept turning around. I'm like, fucking Sobek! Why is he here again?
The wild Sobek appears.
Exactly, and
Super
he just
effective.
Jump at me, and he's so goofy looking when he turns it, like he's doing his ah.
The moment before he dashes, he's like, he looks like a velociraptor. Yeah, it's super scary.
It's just like, hey, I'm gonna beat you up. And you're like, oh,
come at me, bro. Yeah, he should have Google Me tattooed in his chest. That's how badass he is.
All right, let's go on to the next question here. If it allows me. There we go. The question was, will we be able to see a top 100s graph of the best players? The answer last night was, I do not see a problem with just posting that every once in a while in the forums. I will get with Duke and look it over and make sure it is something we want to post. Then today, voila, the top 100 is posted by Duke. Duke posts the top 100 here on the forums. A little bit later, after a bunch of people start complaining, Hi-Rez Chris comes in and posts a new top 100. And he took away some players that he said matchmaking was unsure of, is what he said. He said matchmaking was unsure of. And what he meant by that is he used a variance of basically players who didn't have either enough matches or enough quality matches to actually to see if their ELO was a proper ELO or not, in a sense. So this is actually causing a lot of controversy right now on the forums, or I should say more of whining from the community who thinks they should be up in those upper echelon top 100. They're kind of whining a little bit about it. Fixie, I saw you posted on the forums. Can you maybe enlighten some people on why they are not in the top 100, even though they think they should be?
Sure, man, but first I have to say I'm a little salty that I'm not a top 100 player. Might be slightly jelly. I was expecting my name to be like probably top 50, but whatever. I'll let Restarian carry me, Stermies can carry me, all those guys. All right, look. Now the reason I'm not in the top 100 and a lot of these other good players aren't like in the top 25, like Oxygen, just use logic, bro. If you're playing fives and you're pub stomping teams that have an ELO of negative 600,000, you're not going to get a lot of ELO, bro. You're not going to get points towards your ranking. It's when you beat teams that are near your level, near your ELO, near your matchmaking, MMR, whatever number or acronym you want to use, is when you're getting points towards your ranking. So pub stomping, like, you know, level 2 poopy heads isn't helping you. It's not helping you.
So in other words, stay out of those 5v5 queues. Is what we're looking at. So he's on a call. Laura, do you think it was a good idea to post this top 100, or do you think maybe it was a little bit premature?
It's quite possible that it's a little bit premature, just because the reason I say that is because they did end up removing a bunch of the people who matchmaking was unsure of, which just means that the top ranks, the top 100 players, haven't been in the top 100 long enough for it to really register as something super, like, I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now.
You're making sense.
The list hasn't matured, basically, is what I'm saying. That there was this huge influx into the game over the past, like, month or so, just as closed beta started. I don't actually remember exactly when closed beta started now. Over the past month
of May.
There we go. So since the 31st of May, there's been this huge influx of players, and there's a lot of people starting to play it very seriously, but there just hasn't been a ton of time yet for that top 100 list to mature, for that list to... I'm trying to think of a better word than mature to really describe it, but I can't at the moment. But yeah, it might have been a little early to post it. I don't it's one of those things that no matter what, you're going to post this list and people are going to be like, why am I not on that list? Because it's something that's kind of kept secret. I'd honestly kind of like to see at some point in development, it's not urgent feature or anything, but at some point in development, just to have a constant top 100 list so people could see those people in the top 100 and they have a goal then at that point. They know, okay, I'm not in that list, so I need to work harder to get into that list instead of just having, oh, by the way, here's everybody who's in the top. Enjoy.
The reason they put that list up is because a group of very friendly, fun, and polite people politely asked them to maybe put together this list. Maybe put together this list. And Hi-Rez, Duke, and Bart, and Travis, and Chris, and all these awesome people over there, like, since we have this lovely, beautiful community, we'll post this list for you guys. We love you. We love you guys. And then all these guys go to the forums, and then, like, Chris is just like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going home. That's it. So, like, you know, give an inch, take a mile, ruin everything. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, I like how even Duke posted on the forum, says, this is an experiment. And the experiment was to see how the forums reacted. Well, there you go, community. You just proved to Hi-Rez you are immature in your responses and handling the situation with some of this stuff. But to bring some of you who are still kind of fuming right now with your arms crossed and your mommy's disappointed that you're not in the top 100 right now, let's bring in the fact that some of you have 300 games out there and 200 of those games are in 5v5 queues. And 5 of those 5v5 queues was against somebody with challenge, as Fixer was saying earlier. So you have an increase in elo. So if you want to hit this top 100 list right now, it's not going to be in 5v5s because they are a combined queue right now. It's a combined elo. And if you want to get that higher points into it, you're going to have to do this all in the solo queue or in duo queue or threes. Go in with your 3 people. But and do that. So one other thing about this I found unique today that we did, we went into a match earlier and we look at the actually, I'll get into this here in a moment when we get into it because I think it's the next question. So let's go ahead and go on to the interview and go to the next question. It should be no, it's not. So I'll get to it when we get to it. Question: how does the increase in population look like for you guys? And I thought I included this one because it's very humble and kind of cool on how the devs feel their game is playing out. HiRezTravis's answer was, we've been completely shocked in the last 4 weeks. We started small and expected to grow just by allowing friends to invite friends. But somehow we went viral and we cannot figure it out. It kind of just exploded. We were checking the numbers every hour and someone would tell us how things were going and we were just floored. Well, I can kind of tell you, Hi-Rez, why you went viral. 1, your game is fun. 2, League of Legends was down for 2 weeks.
Rest in peace,
and their forums had a 114-page, probably more now, thread giving out keys to people from the League of Legends community to play Smite. But other than that, I mean, do you think it's actually looking kind of good for Smite in the amount it's increased? And what are your ideas about why it may have increased other than League of Legends fail patch?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is just that the game is fun, and it's something that if you, like in our little pocket of people in Months Behind, we have a bunch of people who play League of Legends already, and we were like, hey, there's this other MOBA. There's this Smite thing. It's kind of like a third-person thing. I'll try it out. And, like, I got an invite, and I was playing it. I was like, yeah, this looks pretty good. So I had a couple extra keys, and I was like, let's give these. I gave them to a couple of my friends, and they were like, oh, well, now I have keys too. I was like, okay. So we started a little thread on our forums where we were like, okay, who still needs access? We'll figure this out, and we'll get everybody into this thing. And that's kind of what happens when you have a game that's fun to play, and you allow friends to invite their friends. When someone can give away a game for free, they a lot of times will do that if they have someone that wants to play it. So yeah, it's just. I read this and I was like, why were they surprised that it exploded like this? Actually seems like exactly what would happen in this situation. At least at the very least I think they should have been like anticipating that something like this might happen for sure. So I don't know.
They might have been basing it off of tribes and whether and its speed of growth. too.
That's possible
possibly,
too.
so.
Yeah, I think the very fact that SMITE is a MOBA helped get a lot more people interested in playing it to begin with. Though Tribes is something that, yeah, sure, there's the Tribes community, and the Tribes community was extremely loyal, and they, like, as soon as Tribes Ascend was in anything, they were like, oh god, we have to play this, it's Tribes, we have to play this. But outside of that, it's not like immediately appealing to the like Call of Duty crowd. It's not like immediately appealing to a non-Tribes player. Whereas a new MOBA, anybody who plays any of the other MOBAs is going to be at least partially interested in it. They're going to want to look at it and see what's going on. So, yeah, I think the fact that it's a MOBA probably contributed quite a bit to that.
Yeah, and I would say also just the simple fact that, I mean, it's been harped on several times, that the game mode, the Defend and Destroy 3-lane map, brought in people from one side of the gaming genres, and then the viewpoint is actually drawing in more MMORPG players than League of Legends or Dota ever could, just because some people like that WASD movement and like to play with that a bit more. So I think that also helps that there is actually a larger pool of players to choose from and to pull into SMITE than that allowed it to grow a little bit quicker, I guess, perhaps. It converted some people. It converted me. That's for sure. I haven't touched League of Legends since Smite. So
it's new. It's shiny. It's a MOBA. You know what I mean? Oh my god. Sorry, I thought there was a Sobek behind me. I mean, no. I mean, like they're taking something. Look, there's no such thing as a original or new idea anymore. We're past that. They don't exist anymore. The only thing we have left is taking an existing idea and or concept and making it better. And that's really what Hi-Rez is doing with SMITE. They're taking a MOBA and they're taking exciting fun things from other games. The controls from MMOs, the skill shots from third-person shooters, the laning phase, the items, the creeps, the team fights from MOBAs. And they're taking it all and they're building this like beautiful paper mache swan, like with the beak and the feathers and everything like that, and it's perfect. You just want to sit there and you want to stroke. He has the swan. I knew it. But they're taking everything, they're meshing it together, and the cool thing is they're doing it right. They're listening to us. They're listening to the players, both good and bad, and they're trying to make it perfect for everybody, not just the pros or the casual players or the people in the middle or the people who probably only played 3 games their entire lives. They're taking the game and they're making it for everybody, and I really think that other developers in the industry could really should take some notes while Hi-Rez is doing their thing.
Well, I'm glad to see it increasing. Let's see what else we got here from their stock. Here we go. Question: any way you plan on buffing Hades or allowing a counter to purification beads in the future? Travis answers with, he is one of the ones I am looking at. The thing about purification beads is they do have a long cooldown timer, and at times it is about working with your team and watching when the enemy team does things. So if they blow the beads on a mere stun, then you follow it up with Hades. So it looks like Travis is kind of telling people, once again, use a bit of strategy into this sense. Make them blow the beads on something else, and then have Hades come in and use his ult, right, when their beads 2 seconds have worn off. And then they can't use it again. Do you think this is viable enough, or does Hades still need a little bit of tweaking, maybe?
He might need a little bit, just because he is really, like, it does kind of make it super reliant on, well, make sure they pop their beads on something else. And like what I've generally been doing is, if I get in a game versus a Hades and I'm finding that I'm having to use my beads all the time, I'll buy an Aegis Amulet, because it's just as good against Hades Ultimate, because obviously you're still rooted in place, but it's a shorter cooldown and you're immune for the full 2 seconds, so you pop it at the right time, then you can just walk away afterwards. It's something that it's going to take a while to really figure out, though, because it's one of those things you kind of got to. That was really hard for me to say for some reason.
That grammar thing, bro.
Yeah, I'm telling you. You kind of got to watch how the metagame sort of adapts to it, and what people over time find just generally becomes the accepted way to deal things. Beads right now in solo queue still nobody's buying them. Like in like really top ranked play, you see them all the time. But in my stupid little 30 games played solo queue, nobody ever buys beads. I look at, like, nobody buys abilities in general. I look at, like, maybe somebody bought Hand of the Gods, and that's it. And I go, why did no one buy beads? They had an Emir. What, like, that's auto beads at that point. Like, yeah. So
what if they added in a larger visual effect to these items? Purification beads. You pop it, and it brings like this ring of beads going around you, so that the enemy team can kind of see, okay, they just used their purification beads. I know he doesn't have it for a little bit. Or if you use Aegis Stone, to where it pulls up like these kind of shields that block you for those few seconds, so that people kind of know what's going on a bit more. And that would kind of help with identifying it from the enemy team's perspective as saying, okay, they used Aegis. Okay, they used purification beads. I know they've used it now. Now it's our opportunity. And they can keep in check with themselves. Otherwise, you don't really know if they used it or not, or if there's a bug and your skill failed in that instance.
I don't know. Like, they already have animations, right? Like, Aegis is like, I'm glowing, bro, I'm glowing. And then purification.
As far as Aegis, I know Aegis just looks like your character slumps down.
My dog's gonna go nuts. My wife just got home. Here we go. Anyways, I mean, there's animations there, and then you can see there's poofy or something. Like, I don't want to make the game any easier. Like, I mean, if you see somebody in like a CC and then they suddenly run away before the CC is up, that means they pop beads. Like, map awareness, presence, and paying attention to what happens and what's popped while you're in a team fight is like, you know, it's a big part of like team fights. So to make that easier, to take that away from team fights, I think I'd be a little disappointed. That's just my opinion on that.
I guess it depends on how important the force them to pop beads gameplay element actually becomes to the game. Because we saw in World of Warcraft, in arenas, forcing them to use their PvP trinket over time just ended up being a huge thing, to the point that eventually Blizzard decided they were going to add that little extra graphic when you pop your PvP trinket, just because that became such a core element of the gameplay at that point. If it becomes, like, if it gets down to the point where, you know, you're sitting there on Mumble or something with other people in a ranked queue, and you're like, okay, he popped beads, now you can come in and gank or something like that, or I'm going to stun him so that he pops beads so that you can come in and gank. At that point, I wouldn't mind it so much, just because it's something that everybody in a rank queue, this gets back to what I was talking about earlier, it's something that everybody in a rank queue is watching for anyway. They're going to call out because they're looking really closely for that. So in like the low tiers of play, making it a little bit more obvious so that they can feel like they're at least playing like on a similar level, where you can't expect your teammates to say, oh yeah, he just popped beads. Making something a little bit more obvious that you can actually see. But then again, if it didn't happen in your lane, they'd still have to call it out anyway. Maybe adding like something to the VGS for enemy used purification beads or something like that.
Or yeah, enemy used CD or something.
Yeah.
I guess, like, if you think about it, there's the item in the game, and I can't think of what it is called right now, but it gives you that little bubble. It's a item that gives you a bubble that, so when you get...
Does it have Magi's Blessing?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So basically you can reflect one attack or whatever, or stop one attack.
Mm-hmm. Negates one ability, right?
That's a visual cue that they put into the game for the exact purpose of, hey, they want you to know that this person has it on him, and so that you personally know that you have it on you still, and that it's going to block something. I don't see it being such a bad idea to. You're going to have to call it out no matter what, because you're not going to see it. I'm not asking for the beads to be around the person until they get used. I'm saying they just appear when you use them for those 2 seconds that you are invulnerable to CC.
Yeah. Well, and it does already have a graphic, because it does the little glowy thing. The problem, I think, is just that it's the same glowy thing that, like, using your ultimate, if you're a champion whose ultimate makes you immune to stuff. Mm-hmm. Like Anubis' ultimate or Odin's ultimate or something like that. It's the same graphic. So a lot of times, I mean, you can usually tell if somebody's using their ultimate. Like, if Anubis is using his ultimate and you can't tell if he's using his ultimate or beads, you're kind of
flying.
Like, you may need to make sure your monitor's plugged in at that point. But I don't know. I feel like the animation is there, and this might be something, like I was saying a minute ago, that just as the metagame continues to develop, as the average player continues to get better at the game, it might be something that you look at League of Legends. People didn't even use wards for the longest time in a game like League of Legends, and nowadays, if you don't have wards down, there's 10 people screaming. There aren't even that many people on your team. There are people coming to your house to scream at you to drop down wards.
Save a life. Save a life by a ward.
Suddenly Sobek is like, drop wards. It's the same. It's the same general thing that's going to happen in SMITE as well. It's just as time continues, as people start learning that it becomes more commonly accepted that you need beads in almost every match. At some point, you should be. They're 500 gold, and they negate so. They're so good. And as that continues to expand, as more and more people are actually buying beads, you'll start to see more people looking at them and going, oh, well, now that I can generally assume everybody is buying beads, I'm going to be watching more closely for that little flash animation that happens so that I know when they've used them. So you'll have Odin players, or Emir players, or Anubis players, or people with hard CCs. They'll go, has that guy used his beads lately? Do I feel like they've used their beads recently enough? Or perhaps even actively using those CCs to force them, like an Anubis who has a decent amount of CDR can use his stun to force the beads and then not bother following it up with anything, so that then, 15 seconds later, they can follow it up with another stun and actually go through their whole combo.
Yeah, true. And I think they mentioned yesterday as well, I didn't include it in here, but Travis mentioned that the 500 gold cost, people were asking why they're so cheap on some things. He did say that they made the abilities items that are something that anybody can get. It doesn't have to be a late game item. It doesn't have to be a item for just someone who was better at farming earlier on. They wanted to make the abilities things that people can grab in the beginning of the game and utilize actively throughout the game. So yes, people, they are 500 gold. It's not that hard to earn 500 gold. In fact, what I do most of the time, and what would probably be smart, is when you buy an item and it says you only have 600 gold left, or you have 500 gold left, and you can't upgrade the item anymore, might be a good time to buy an ability. Might as well, because you're going to be out there farming for quite a while longer anyways.
Here's a question for you. How many gods can you name right now that have no CC? No stun, no knockups, no slows? Name them.
Ra, unless you build Gem of Isolation.
Ra has a slow number 2.
Oh, that's right, Ra's 2.
Next.
I always forget about it because it's close range. Try to save, but yeah.
Come on, guys. Right now, gods, no CC at all. And that's why beads are $500.
Does Odin have?
Gold, sorry.
Does Odin have a CC other than his ultimate that beads would actually work on?
Doesn't his whirlwind slow? I think I'm not a big Odin player.
I don't know.
I feel like a lot of people are not a big Odin player.
Kali, Zeus, Kali. Yep, the chat's got us. Zeus, Kali. All right, so 2 gods without slows. Again, that's why beads are 500 gold.
Yeah,
because
except for Kali builds the hammer.
Yeah,
and then Zeus builds the what's the other?
But you guys,
Isolation.
you guys get my point, and I'm pretty sure chat gets my point over here too.
Yeah.
So beads are super cheap because a lot of this game, more so than any other MOBA out there right now, is based around CC. That's why we have beads and Aegis. And if you guys had watched any of my shows, you'd know that you're damn well buying Aegis and beads every game. And if you're not, you're bad and you should feel bad.
Let's move on to the next part of the interview at this point. At this point. You were talking about wards, lore. So here's wards in the game. Why are wards visible to other people? HiRezTravis responds with, wards are intended to be viewable by the enemy team, but only when a ward of their own is within distance of it. So first off, they are supposed to be viewable, but only if the enemy team ward is in distance of it. That kind of makes sense. Sort of similar mechanic in League of Legends. But he did say, with that said, we recently discovered a bug that makes it so that even though I can now see and destroy your ward, your team will always be able to see the ward that I just placed because at that time, your ward made my teams visible as well. That will be fixed in an upcoming patch. So currently, wards are visible if you place another ward near it, but it's supposed to go. Yours is supposed to go invisible if you destroy theirs. It's currently not. And might we add that HiRezTravis also added in that Arachne's eggs and Artemis's traps act the exact same as the wards. So they will Artemis traps and Arachne's eggs will reveal enemy wards as well.
Yeah, that might because honestly I was under the impression that wards were just always visible. Like that was the just because there was a couple games where I'd placed a bunch of them and they just kept dying. So I was like, what is going on? Like people just walk by. It must have been because there's always there's usually an Artemis in every game right now.
Throwing the traps down everywhere.
Yeah. So I almost wonder if that's all it was. If it was just like it was too near to Arachne's eggs or Artemis's trap or something. It was dying. I feel like I almost don't like that Artemis's traps and mostly Artemis's traps. Arachne's eggs you can at least destroy. Artemis's traps you have to step in to get rid of them at the moment.
Yeah.
So that almost turns them into this unkillable ward that you have to step in and potentially open yourself up to being ganked to actually clear out. So I almost don't like that very much.
Just ping.
I like the
hey,
fact.
you're here. Can you step in that?
Yeah, I step in them on purpose for the fun of it.
Yeah.
But usually when we're playing against somebody who's horrible, I do it just tonked them. But I kind of like the idea that their traps and eggs act as wards to show the area. But I agree. I don't think they should make visible enemy wards when you place them down, or your wards when they be placed down. They can act like a ward showing the area, but why does this trap suddenly have a power to reveal another invisible ward? I mean, isn't it already
it's
a
a
trap?
really smart collection of vines sitting on the ground. It's really.
I mean, because Artemis all of a sudden gets 3 free wards that reveals wards and traps people, and it does very minor damage.
I think they maybe missed a line of code there, because that doesn't seem right.
Well, that's what it looked like he said it in an interview. Maybe it's not supposed to be. But if those traps and eggs revealing the wards just seems like all of a sudden those things went up a lot higher in importance. And in fact, with Arachne, I'd be like, okay, let's just place my eggs everywhere. Even though it's part of her entire build to be able to gank somebody is with the eggs. But so those reveal wards, it kind of brings them back to being kind of useless again. Just have an Artemis or Arachne on your team, don't need to buy wards. But if they can't be revealed by them, then maybe wards start becoming a bit more needed. Let's move on to the next question. Quick question, quick answer. How soon can we expect a spectator mode? Travis said, we have spectator mode. We just need a UI treatment, believe it or not. And it is not priority over chat, teaming, and so on. So spectator mode is ready except for a UI treatment. But they said that chat UI, teaming UI, and apparently other UI features such as the profile and stuff, those are more important to them right now than getting spectator mode UI complete and getting it out there. Fixie,
I can,
or Laura, whichever.
I can. Well, okay. Spectator mode is one of those all-important features to have in esport, right? If you don't have a spectator mode, then what are you even doing with your time? But without the custom games, without like being able to put together a 5v5 game that's complete 5v5, the spectator mode is also kind of worthless because you don't have the game to spectate. So I can see them saying, okay, we need to get chat together, we need to get teaming together first, we need to make sure that we can have these 5v5 matches, these custom put together instead of queuing up for a game. We can organize these two teams against each other. If that's what they're saying, then yeah, that I can agree with. If they're talking about, well, we need to get Facebook integration in first, then...
No, and he did say also that the custom matches are also in front of spectator mode as well. So,
I mean, I think you're kind of gonna know which way I'm leaning on this one. Like, I'm a broadcast jockey. I cast. It's what I do. I sit there and I cast games. Like, oh, he just died. That person died, but I'm yelling the entire time. Without spectator mode, I can't do that. I think spectator mode is 100% what's going to drive this game. Either into the ground or into the esports limelight where I think it belongs. Now, I mean, the spectator mode itself, it needs to be, it needs to be polished. It can't be dumb or bad, but just something usable, user-friendly, and that's not ugly is going to help propel the game to reaches I don't think Hi-Rez will see coming. Like the media content spectator mode will bring this game to MLG, we'll bring this game to NASL, we'll bring this game to DreamHack. Once we have that, we can start propelling this game to, again, heights beyond anyone's expectations. And I'm kind of disappointed that they said it's not a priority, because looking at, possible revenue for them and getting the game where it needs to be, I really feel like, it should be a priority, because we can also help with balancing God's items when we have that other view, when we have good players from other games able to watch complete games. So I think, in my opinion, they should rethink that. I love everything they've done so far. I'm one of the biggest Hi-Rez fanboys of all time. Like, I'm a big supporter, but I think maybe this might be a mistake.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something that they need to get out there as soon as possible. I'm right there with you. I can't wait to like actually get in there and start broadcasting SMITE matches, because that's like I'm more of I want to spectate and do the play-by-play and everything.
Yeah.
I want to get in there and make watching the matches exciting, even more so than I want to actually play the game itself. So personally, I can't wait for the spectator mode to actually be in there and functioning. But it is absolutely, they have to get that This is a game where the spectator mode is extremely important. It can't just be like a League of Legends or a StarCraft spectator mode where, okay, it's basically the same view that everybody else has. They're going to need to go in there and make sure that they're giving the broadcaster the ability to see everything that they need to see, to be able to understand how the match is progressing in a broad sense, not just let's look and see what Emir is up to. Let's talk about Emir for a second. They're going to need to have tools in there, like even if it's just a temporary, like top-down overview of what's going on, so you can see, oh, these guys are positioned over here. Here's the positioning as the team is coming together. They're going to need to be able to show stuff like that off. So I can see why they would say that it needs what was the term they use to describe that? A UI treatment. Yeah, I can see why they would say that it needs that. I definitely want to see that in the game as soon as possible, though. As soon as there is the ability to create those 5v5 custom games, I would like to see a spectator mode with it.
I do want to see, definitely with the spectator mode, I mean, I want to have that top-down view, the third-person view with a pivot camera that can turn around. I'd even like to be able to see you be able to bring up a full-screen map that maybe you can draw on and show things real quick, or you see the movement of the people as they move around. I think those little features added into there to allow more functionality, allow more things for the person to do is very great. And if they are talking about UI treatment, maybe they are talking about the UIs bugging out or not loading properly per character. If you've watched the Tribes Ascend streams, you'll see the UI pops out a little bit from the side, tells you their speed, tells you what weapons they're doing, their armor or ammo and stuff like that. So maybe they're looking at that, a way to pull up maybe what adequate information you need, their gold and everything. And they're still designing the in-game and out-of-game UI to the point that maybe they're still designing those features even appearing in-game. They're not appearing in-game yet, so maybe they don't have them appearing for spectator mode at this time. So, who knows?
Whatever, we'll see. I'm excited. It'll be awesome.
Go on to the next question. So, this question was asked, I believe, by Alakite at the from Beyond the Rift. Or did you ask it? I don't care. Maybe you asked it, Vixie. All right. Question was, confirm or deny the hidden elo is based on the order you are in the lobby. The answer was, let me say that the top person on the list is the highest ranking on the team.
And then he said?
Then Alakite actually asked, so does that mean it's not? And
no. Yeah, and then Travis said the rest may or may not be in order. So people, when I'm on the bottom of the list in lobby, I might not be the worst.
However,
right? Remember that.
However, Fixie, I'm going to have to say that you probably are if you're on the bottom of the lobby. We went into a couple matches earlier today, 3-man queued into them, and Resterian was at the top, and Honey Badger's right below him, and then me for third. We kicked back out. It goes back in. Resterian's at the top again, who's, by the way, on the top 100 list. Honey Badger again, then me, and then the two pug people that we were playing with. It happened the same exact order again. So I'm going to say that the whole order is probably the ELO order from top to bottom. That'll be my guess. We know the top is.
Don't do this to me.
But
Kenny, like, if your ELO is higher than mine, bro, we have to check later. I love it.
But something that did we found funny earlier in a game we were doing it when we went into that 3-man queue. We're like, okay, how much of a challenge is this enemy team going to be to us? We wanted to figure that out. So what we did is we went up against them. We went over here to this top 100 list. We looked at who their #1 player was and said, all right, Control F, type in their name. We type in Rasterian if we're playing against him. He's in the top 100. So we know that he's the best player. Everyone else is below him, and they could be in the top 100 as well. Or if you end up looking at it, you'll see the fact that if that person is not in the top 100, you know their whole team right there, none of them are in the top 100. So you have a little bit better chance, most likely, of winning. So there you go. There's some pre-match lobby tactics for everybody out there. Get yourself a tiny little advantage.
While we're talking about lobbies, can we talk about... Oh, how many questions do you have left? I'm sorry.
I don't know, actually. How many questions are on here?
I'll talk about scrims.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
What do you think about this top person being the highest ELO lore?
I don't really know. I guess in like the way that the game is right now, in it's essentially blind pick, it doesn't matter too much. Like I don't have too big of a problem with knowing whether or not the people I'm playing with are ranked higher or lower than I am. But I could see ways that could be frustrating for players. If they start to end up like once there's enough gods in the game to actually have like a ranked pick or a draft mode pick, if the top ranked person is always the person picking, that could get kind of frustrating. I think.
Didn't
like,
League of
I never get
Legends
to pick.
Didn't League of Legends do like a percentage based thing to always give they give people the chance to be the top pick and stuff even if they have a low ELO?
They just changed how it works. Before it was just a question of whether you were queuing with other people, and if you were a group of people queuing together, then one of you was probably going to be the first pick.
Yeah.
And then the other people were at the bottom. And now it's just like a general chance, either like it's mathy, but yeah, they change it up to make it so that there's a chance for solo queue players to be the one picking and drafting as well, or banning as well.
Yeah, there is something else somebody else said. It was a pretty smart idea thinking about it is if you are the top on your list in the team going into the game, you need to pick a carry character.
Yeah.
If you're not on the top, then maybe you can play a tanky or a support character maybe instead of a carry. But because people are saying like the top person needs to carry the team is the way the matchmaking kind of gets designed.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I don't think that's 100% accurate, because a lot of times someone will be high ranked because they were playing other characters. Yeah. Like you say, I've played almost entirely supports, and I just happen to be good at it. I'm good at supporting my team, so my teams tend to win. So I've got a pretty high rank. But I can see that sort of mentality, that idealism sort of working out. I'm bad at words today. But I can see that sort of happening in the community and in the community's mindset of, oh, well, they're the best player on our team, so they should pick the carry and everybody else should support them. Or someone who is on the top say, I demand that I play the carry because I'm the best player on the team, and you all have to do what I have to say. Yeah.
Well, like back in my Han days, like they kind of had a system like that. Like if you were playing with decent people, like I don't mean decent as in good, but like kind-hearted, they'd be like if I was on the bottom because I was like atrocious at Han, they'd be like, Bixie, what are you good at? I will grab this god before they pick them so you can play him, or something like that. So I mean, I think like when we get to the high level ELO and we start seeing like draft mode, ban pick, and all that stuff, I think like this community's got a little bit more of a heart than a lot of the other MOBA communities, so there might be more of that going on than anything else. We'll see. It really depends on how much people want to continue whining and crying.
Let's move.
A lot. That's generally the just fact of the internet: whining and crying.
Yeah, gaming, whining, crying. Just deal with it. All right, next part of the interview. Let's see what else. Okay, on everybody's mind for a while, will there be smart casting implemented? HiRezTravis answer: it is on our list, and it is something that we definitely see the need to add. And there's actually a player out there right now who has created a little macro program for smart casting available for people to use already. The biggest problem is obviously with ground target abilities. And HiRezTravis said last night the system they are looking at is where you hold down the ability, and then when you release it, it casts. That way, for ground target abilities, you can hold down and then target with your mouse and release it if you want to, and then tap it really quick for all the other abilities. Is smart casting needed in SMITE, or should it not be implemented?
I don't see why not. Like why it would not, why it should not be implemented. There's a lot of like once you get really used to how your abilities work, and like you can start to judge distances without having to look at the guidelines on the ground or something. You don't even need the guideline there anymore. You might as well just have it activate when you push the button once you're that good at playing a particular champion. So it'll allow people to pull off much faster combos and so on. Like an Anubis, because I use him as an example because he's a champion that has that ridiculous combo, which is the, you land the slow, then the stun, then you ultimate on top of them, and they're pretty much screwed. If you can cut out that extra keystroke, that extra mouse click, you can pull that combo off a lot faster, but only if you're good enough at him to be able to pull it off without seeing the guidelines on the ground. So yeah, I think it's just a way to get a bit higher of a skill cap in the game, which already has a pretty high skill cap, but increase that even more by allowing people to get that little bit of extra performance if they're willing to forego some of the more noob-friendly aspects of the game.
Yeah, and I think it does help. It kind of allows that a little bit extra feature of increase your competitive play a little bit more. Become good at this little feature, become better at increasing your attacks, and it kind of allows you to differentiate yourself a bit more. And I think it's going to help all you Agni players out there. You're going to be able to stun a little bit faster. Being able to hit your flame trail all of a sudden right away. Or Wukong players, Bastet players, Odin players, Hades with your jump and stuff. Perhaps you're just trying to jump somewhere really quick, and you don't care to target it really quick. So maybe it helps you with that. Anybody who has a dash ability, it probably helps them. A lot of times you kind of get screwed and stuck up in something, and maybe because you're trying to aim it as well, and you don't need that anymore with smart casting. So,
I think they should rename smart casting to dumb casting. I've played Sobek so many times, or Anubis so many times, like Hades Agni, like anybody I've played more than 3 or 4 times, I can go into my combo and know exactly when the cooldown recycles and press that button. Like, I don't feel like I should have to depend on a third-party mod or a mod implemented within the game, whatever you want to call it, to be able to hit my combos or go off there and do lanes. Like, I'm not against players using it. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, I think it's dumb, I guess. I don't think they should have. I just think it's dumb. I can't explain myself. I just don't like it. I don't want help, and I don't want them to have help either. That's really all I can think of to say about it.
Well, that's kind of the thing, is removing the help. Like, right now you have the help in the form of the guideline. Like when you go to land your stun or whatever, or your ground target thing, it has that little circle that appears on the ground. This is kind of getting rid of that and saying, okay, you don't need that, so we won't wait for you to use it. We'll let you just go ahead with it anyway.
Do you think people will start asking for the ability, though, after this? Like, smart casting is implemented, and now people want to be able to cut animations off early. Is it Dota that has the animation?
Cutting animations, no. That's a huge part of how the abilities actually work.
Is it Dota, though, that has, like, the whole...
press G.
Cancel the end animation thing, and people are like, it brings so much more skill, because you can end your animation. That's why it's better.
I actually just hate that. I think that abilities should be balanced around the animations.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with smart. Like, I use smart casting in League of Legends just because it like on champions in League that I've gotten used to, like Leona, for example, where I've just gotten used to her dash. I just go, okay, well, I don't want to have to line this up. I just want to be able to push the button and go in that direction right away. To me, that it feels like it's a bit harder to use it then, because obviously you're not seeing the guideline on the ground. But I don't need the guideline anymore, so I don't want to have to wait around for the extra action, the extra click to have to actually use it. I'd rather save that, you know, 1/10 of a second and actually be able to use something else a little bit faster.
All right, let's go ahead
You
and move on.
Smart casting.
Move on in this little interview. We should be almost done. A lot of people have concern with gods and how fast they come out. How fast are they planning to come out? That was a question asked. The answer by HiRezTravis was, because we know we are on the short end of gods, we know we need to increase the rate that we add them into the game. So right now we are shooting at a schedule that will release a new god every 2 weeks. This will start with the very next one, which the very next god is expected to be next week. So we're looking at a 2-week god release, every 2 weeks, a new god release schedule by Hi-Rez Studios, starting after they release the god next week in next week's patch, obviously. And for those who didn't know, RTS Guru did a interview with Todd Harris last week, I believe, and he mentioned in there that they are going to want a 3-week timetable. But for beta, they're ramping it up a little bit faster in order to get up to, say, the 30 gods they want to have by release, at least 30 gods by release. So they're going to ramp that timetable up a little bit for beta. But I think that means at release, we're looking at 3 weeks. Does 2 weeks for beta sound fair and 3 weeks after that sound like pretty good?
It's fine with me. I don't have a problem with it.
I agree. Whatever. Just, you know, keep cranking out that content. Gods are fine. Just make sure you get that matchmaking algorithm corrected. We want spectator mode. Like, they've got a lot on their plate. Like, for me, gods aren't a priority. They just aren't. But, I mean, cool, look, a new god. Now let's go watch the forums blow up about how OP everyone thinks he is. That's what I'm looking forward to.
We do need more gods, though, for draft mode, I have to say.
Yeah,
for,
definitely.
To do draft mode effectively, we're going to need more gods. And also, I think we need more gods in order to diversify this competitive scene of teams being built and stuff.
And roles like ranged
AD,
or ranged physical damage. Right now there's Artemis, and if you don't like playing Artemis, you can play Artemis and stop crying about it. So
you can play AD Raw.
Like
Did anybody tell you AD Raw is actually a great build?
Still on this.
I'd rather go Polynomicon Raw.
Ooh! Burn!
You can put Fatalis on them, and then you can go really fast.
Mind blown.
Next.
You guys crack me up.
Next part. That's the end of the slideshow, it says.
Yes!
All right. Fixie, you brought something up to me real quick before the show started that you wanted to bring out on here. And I think it's actually a really good idea on how teams can actually get themselves a little bit of competitive practice into the thing. You all were doing it earlier today. So, Fixie, you have the floor.
We can scrim! Really, we can scrim. 5v5s, arranged matches, we can do it. Okay, so you get 10 people in bent. You pick 2 captains. I'll be captain, you be captain. I pick Restarian first, we win. It doesn't matter who you pick, GG. Okay, so what we do now is the players go in 2 different channels, right? And then the 2 team captains, one of them counts to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use 4, 3. You can count to whatever you want to. I mean, if you only got 4 fingers or you can't count that high, do whatever you want to. So when you hit that number, you both queue up at the same time. And then when both teams get the queue at the same time, you press accept and, you guys are in a match together. Now, if one team gets the queue and the other person doesn't get that queue, all somebody has to do is hit decline, leave queue, redo the count, join queue at the same time, and you're fighting each other. So just make sure they match up. Both teams get the queue pop at the same time, press accept, you've got yourselves a scrim. We did it like 5 times, 6 times today, and like literally getting it organized and going takes less than 2 minutes. It's not that bad. You don't have to get butt hurt. It's really easy. You can come in BLG vent. You can come in the IRC. We're gonna start doing like in-houses and pre-mades and scrims and everything like that. Like every night, it's gonna be the bomb.com on CD-ROM. I will help and show you guys how it works. It'll be awesome. This
is actually a similar tactic that people have used to get a 5-man queue into the normal queues. One group goes as a 3-man, one group goes as a 2-man to queue at the same time, see if their queue pops at the exact same time, and they may be against each other, but they have a chance to be on the same team. So it's a similar tactic. It does work. Teams out there who are looking to actually get better and stop playing the 5v5 matches against the newbies who are trying to learn the game as well, maybe it's time to get into that IRC, get into that BLG event, get into something, organized scrims against each other for a couple hours, and actually get some good practice into there with your teams right now.
Come at us, bro. Come at us. We'll show you. We'll show you what's up. Pub stomping. I might have stomped Restarian a little bit earlier. You know, number 1 EU, number 8 closed beta. He might have gotten stomped. We'll just say.
Okay. So Fixie's lying a little bit right now, so I think we need to bring him to an end.
No! I beat him. I was the fat kid. I got picked last, and I sat there and I beat him. It was so sad. I don't like being the fat kid. But no, seriously, the scrims are awesome. We're going to start doing them on a regular basis. Hit us up.
All right. Is there any last things that you want to say, Fixie, before we go?
No, thank you guys for coming to watch the stream. You guys are helping just by, talking in chat, watching us, going to the websites, BL Gaming, SMITE DB, Break TV. Was it Break TV? Face Break TV? I'll break you in the face TV.
Game Breaker?
Game Breaker. Thank you, Game Breaker. Just by spreading the word and going to Twitter and the website and the forums, you guys are doing awesome. Keep it up. Don't get butthurt. Be polite. Help noobs.
And they can follow you at FixieSLN on Twitter. Is that correct?
Yeah. Or in-game FixieSLN. You can message me, whatever. Chill with everybody.
And you can also see him on Beyond the Rift on Thursday nights.
Ed, Sundays, so you want to play Smite, 5:30 Central Time.
Okay. Lore, any last things to say, where we can find you, so on and so forth?
About 3 meters from Sobek. That's where I'll be.
Dude, he's right behind you.
Oh, Jesus!
You broke something. I saw it.
No.
Oh, it's a dog. Never mind. That might be a Sobek.
More like a Nubis.
It's Fenrir.
Go away.
So,
But yeah, no, I don't have anything terribly important to add. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, twitter.com/Devilore, facebook.com/Devilore, Twitch TV, Devilore. I do stream Smite when I'm playing it. So
and you give after game analysis too, right?
Yeah. I'll stream a game, and then after it, I'll talk about what I learned, which is usually really basic, stupid stuff, because I'm still very bad at this game. So afterwards, I'm like, okay, so AD and Nubis, bad idea.
Or you look at it and go, okay, I look at the score. Oh, I'm the only one who bought any abilities on my team.
Yeah, that's usually how most matches go. It's like, okay, they had a Hades, they had an Emir, and they had an Artemis, and I'm the only one who bought beads.
All right, and you're at Gamebreaker TV and Tank Spot, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you can find me at JK Kennedy 26 because some idiot on Twitter took JK Kennedy, hasn't posted one tweet, doesn't follow anybody, nobody's tweeted to him, and he hasn't done crap with it for 5 years, and Twitter will not delete it, saying they are working on a mass deletion program for the past 2 years. I've asked them to delete it. But you can follow me there or at my site, justingaming.com, or a lot of you right now are watching my Twitch, so follow this stream. That would be great. And my YouTube, you can find it at my site because it's /Aqualis Gaming. I need to really focus this somehow and get it all into one brand. All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone, today. Hope you get on, jump on, download SMITE if you have not downloaded it yet. There are keys out there available. Someone in this chat most likely has a key. So scream for one right now if you want one, and someone will probably post one for you. If not, you can find them on almost anybody who's streaming SMITE at any time of the day, especially sooner. I think there's always keys flying around in his chat. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Fixie. Thank you, Lore. And let's bring this one down to an end.
Laters.